And we begin our live edition of AskTom Live, which is why it's called AskTom Live. And also Facebook and YouTube all together. All that stuff goes on. I'm really not sure how it all works. But I'm here to answer your questions across the country right now. It's pretty cold. I know in Houston, Texas, where we do HomeShowRadio. I've been doing it for 34 plus years now. HomeShowRadio, and you can go to our website, HomeShowRadio.com. We're on Sports Radio 610 on this frigid weekend. It's really not that cold, but it depends where you come from. Anyway, from 9 to noon on Saturday and 8 to 11 on Sunday. And we do it there and here, and you can go to HomeShowRadio.com and find other ways to get it. And I have my sidekick, my boss, Charlie Mosier from Mosier Media. Okay.
I hate when you call me
sidekick
the boss. I hate when you call me the boss, you know? Because I go home with this fantasy that you'll do what I tell you to do.
I'm sorry, boss.
You're right.
You know that's the business I'm in. We call everybody boss.
Oh, okay,
construction
boss.
Business.
As a
Yeah.
business I'm
or
in,
in Brownsville or Houston, it's El Jefe.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, that means the boss.
We call everybody
Okay.
Hoss. So
No,
same thing.
boss.
All right. Well, what we're doing today is answering your questions, and I'm betting you got a whole passel of them about cold and freezing and what to do and all that. And Tom is going to put his 35 years on the radio helping folk to work today in the next 30 minutes answering your questions. And you can put them right in the comment section down below, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Go ahead and put them there, and we'll take care of you. We'll get you the answers you need and help you be ready for this freeze, whether you're farther north from us and already dealing with snow and sleet and freezing rain and ice, or you're here on the Gulf Coast where it'll get a little cold. We'll have to cover some parts.
Yes, but then all that other place in the northern climates that you just said, that's like a spring day. Because I used to live in Lake Placid. That was, we're just going to get a little ice. Cool. All right. nothing to worry about.
So we will get to your questions in a minute, but first, as is our habit, we like to start by talking about going around the world and up your block about home improvement news. And what's news in home improvement is this week. After there's some legal movements going on with this case, Tom. After Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans back in 2005, Brad Pitt came in and said, hey, I'm going to help out. He created this organization called Make It Right. And they built 100 environmentally conscious, sustainable homes to improve the decimated lower Ninth Ward.
Right.
So how did that turn out? Not so well. It turns out that the majority of Make It Right's homes are today in shambles and suffering from catastrophic structural defects. Meanwhile, Pitt's organization has folded under the weight of numerous lawsuits. In fact, there's one class action suit that pretty much put them out of business. The challenge is that the homes were built using a green, sustainable philosophy that advocates the use of reusable materials, Tom, and clean water and renewable energy and all that. However, many of the homes lacked rain gutters, overhangs, and waterproof paint in New Orleans. They didn't even cover beams down there where they're going to have all that moisture in there. So as a result, only 6 of the homes remain in reasonably good shape. Several have been demolished, like this one's getting torn down in this picture. And another 6 have been boarded up and abandoned. So, as a matter of fact, some of them were built with flat roofs that couldn't stand up to the rain, and massive water intrusion led to termite infestation and mold. And yes, Tom, they used foam insulation in building these things because that's what is the hippie thing to do, the hip thing to do in building a house, right? So that's homeowners describe feeling like they've been taken advantage of on a huge scale, and suggesting that after causing the problem, Make It Right fled from this worsening situation. Where does it stand today? It's in court, and that's where it's going to be. And we're just going to
I just got a couple comments though before we move on. Okay, you said it all just the way it is. First off, Brad Pitt is a fine man, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
He did not do this on purpose.
No.
I do not want to blame him. I blame the people that think because we have a movie star, everything is going to be great and he's an expert. That happens throughout all of Hollywood. Everybody says, oh, if this person says it, then I like their movie, so I like this, what they're going to say. I know it's going to be true. Yeah, I'm sure he tried his best and his heart was in it. He's not running the company. He's not building the homes. Secondly, when you get into these things, what happens is you have someone come in and start to grab federal money. So they start to go to Washington and say, hey, we got Brad Pitt, we got this, we've created a nonprofit organization, give us all this money, we'll build these homes for these people. And so the people in Washington say, yay, because they're kind of not that sharp either. That's why they work in Washington. So the money goes out, and then all the manufacturers come in and say, hey, we want to put our foam in, we want to do this, we want to do that. And so the money starts flowing, and I'll guarantee you if they track the money, it didn't all go to building those homes. There was a huge overhead of management that probably walked away, not unlike many organizations even today you'll see where they can't find $60 million, they can't find $6 million. This has been going on forever, and the people keep getting into it. And then you have the homeowners. The homeowners think, oh, look, they're going to give us a free or almost free or, half price, 50% home. Let me tell you, if it's free or if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. So you've got to be a very educated consumer. So it's not one thing, it's just greed that goes through these kind of things. And it's not the first time and it won't be the last time.
Right. So we'll keep an eye on it, let you know. But it just thought it was interesting that yet another house.
It's
got
sad
on this week. It is. I think it is sad because I'm sure Brad Pitt went in there with the best of intentions.
Oh, he was fine. He was just a spokesperson.
And I was going to say somebody put together an organization, and he did what we used to say in the radio promotion business. He got in front of somebody else's parade, and and the people behind him just did not think it through and about what's needed there, because I'm here to tell you for the kind of money they spent building those houses, had they built it correctly for that area, Tom, those houses would still be there.
They would have been simple little homes that worked great for the people. But let me tell you, there are people behind the scenes. Oh, they made a lot of money and they thought it through, and they're the first ones that are long gone. And with a whole pocket full of cash, it happens to all of those kind of situations. That's why I tell people, don't get involved with that stuff.
All right, and that's it for the news this week. Because remember, if it happens in home improvements, it's news to us.
Yes, I like that.
So,
that was good.
Thank you. Let's get right to the question at hand, the elephant in the room, the turd in the punch bowl, the thing everybody wants to know about today. And Gretchen puts it best. Do I drain my water pipes like I did last February? I'm in the Richmond area and didn't have any issues last time. Tom, what's your advice for her and other people like her who are worried about this the freeze we're getting tonight?
Yeah. I can say this with the least equivocation, mental reservation, or secret evasion of mine. I swear it is not going to be like last year. It's just not going to happen. They're looking at 28, 26, and we talk about the Houston area. Houston area starts up there at Huntsville and goes all the way to Galveston. And every probably 20 miles, I don't know how many miles, it rises up another degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. Before you know it, you're yanking your jacket off because it's so hot when you get farther south. So in the Richmond area, you don't have any worries about that. The one worry, and this has happened before at a lot of freezes, and we tend to forget, especially me, because it's home improvement, but it's not. And that's your backflow preventer on your sprinkler system, because that's more of a gardening thing. Now, I had some of my citrus trees covered by my gardeners, and they went ahead and drained mine. We have a great video at HomeShowRadio.com showing you how to drain yours. That's the one thing I would drain, but I would not drain the pipes in the house. It's just not going to be cold enough, and it is certainly not going to be like last year.
How do you feel about those, the idea that you should go out? Some people talk about taking their outside hose bibs, just letting them drip a little so they won't freeze, Tom.
And they certainly can do it. What I think about it for tonight, I think you're just wasting water. If everybody wants to waste water, it's not cold enough to even freeze, so it's not preventing anything. It's not creating a problem for somebody else unless they want to take a shower and the water pressure's down and they're not getting their hair clean, which I don't relate to. So besides that, I just think it's a waste of time, and I hate to see people waste their time.
When you cover your hose bib, Tom, when you're covering that thing up, I know one of the things that they talk about is, and I've heard you say this many times, when you insulate the riser coming up to it, you want to make sure there's no air behind whatever you're wrapping it with. And I would assume that it's too late to go get the pipe insulation at the home centers, so you're going to wind up using something else to put on there. Whether it's a blanket wrapped in a plastic bag or whatever, the point is...
There's just no reason to do that this time.
Really?
But, yeah, no, it's not going to... Insulation does not create heat. All it does is become a wet, frozen blanket on there. But it's not. It's just not going to freeze that stuff. That to get through pipe, and whether it's copper, galvanized, especially the PEX, it's just not going to get through that into the pipe and the water to start freezing the water. But I want to make this comment because what you've talked about, this is off to the side. If you went through last year and you survived it, and you did not already have all your pipes insulated, you did not fix all your leaks and have all those insulated, if you didn't take precautions last, I don't know, April, May, June, July, depending how you could get plumbers and stuff out, it's kind of silly for you to try to do anything right now. I want you to do this because you do it once and it's done. This whole idea of wrapping and unwrapping and wrapping and unwrapping, it's kind of like belongs in a home somewhere where people don't know what they're doing. Don't do that. I'm trying to be nice.
All right.
It just doesn't work well.
If there's a pet peeve Tom has about the weather right now, it's when the weather guessers get on their TV in front of all their fancy stuff and they start talking about the feels like temperature. Your pipes don't feel like. That's a human
I want
measurement.
everybody to look it up. You know what that's based on? If you were out there, I forgot what the time is, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. But if you were totally naked and you stood outside, that's what it feels like. Heck yeah, it's going to feel like that. You're going to have shrinkage up the gazoo. And you're going to be running around like a stiff. Yeah, but nobody does that. Nobody's ever going to feel like it unless there's something wrong with you at home we're talking about. I mean, it's just not going to work that way. So watch out for that because it scares everybody to death. And they never did that in, people won't know this, Charlie, but you and I, because we're old, the Dr. Frank days and the days of real meteorologists where they were coming from, the not so entertaining, not so good looking, but very sharp in what they did. And you just didn't hear that stuff back 30 years ago.
Well, I know in the Houston area, the one that I trust is I go to Space City Weather because that guy does a great job. I can't remember his name now, but I like him so much I bought a hat because it helps support the guy. But they do no hype weather. You go to spacecityweather.com and there's no fear, there's no hype. They haven't got the Doppler 10,000 space satellite weather system. They've got this and they use it, and you get a more reliable forecast and something that's not going to scare the bejesus out of you. But all right, we got other questions to get to. I'm just thinking about the naked thing, Tom. I'm just having a hard time getting that out of my head.
That's what it's based on. Naked. No, even a dog has a coat of fur on it. It doesn't feel as cold as you.
Well, I was just going to say, when I take my dog for a walk, he's naked.
Yeah, and he's got shrinkage too. The fact is that you still want to keep them warm. They're your little pets, of course.
We just got this Australian Labradoodle, right? And I walk him every morning.
Got lots of hair.
I walk him every day at 6 a.m. I'm not sure that Sandy didn't get the dog to get me out of the house in the morning to go for a walk, but I walk with him. And this morning, he took about 5 steps and sat down. He's like, I ain't going. So tomorrow morning, we're not even going to try.
Like.
Yeah, because apparently,
feel like temperature.
Yeah, apparently the coldest moment is going to be tomorrow at about 7 a.m. According to all the weather charts and prognosticators. They say it's gonna hit base right at sunrise tomorrow and then slowly come up during the day. So all this worry about your pipes overnight, worst part's going to be when you get up in the morning. So,
well, anyway. Think about this. You put a glass of room temperature water in a freezer. Your freezer's 0 degrees. How long does it take to freeze that entire glass, say an 8-ounce glass of water, or you can even do 6, whatever you want to do? It takes hours. And so you're talking about a little bit of water with an hour or so of cold temperature that's barely under freezing. It's not enough time. Ice cubes take a little while to make. Those ice makers don't just crank them out in a half a minute.
We've screwed up. I just realized. If we were doing this the right way,
yes,
we would not have said everything we just said. We would have alluded to it and teased it and get people waiting to watch for the answer.
No, I'm not very good at that.
That's not how we roll around here. We give you.
You have to do that, not me.
No. Yeah. All right, let's get to the questions we get. These are, and by the way, if you have any questions, you want to throw them in. You just use that space, that comment section, put it in there. It'll pop up on our screen, and we'll put it up, and Tom will answer for you. That's what we're here to do. We're here every Thursday at 4 o'clock Central Time doing that for about a half an hour, and we're happy to do it with you. But we also get questions from HomeShowRadio.com. You got something?
Charlie, I was just thinking, just to disclaimer for what we just did. This is going for Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
Some of you were watching in Wyoming and stuff. Forget everything we said.
Well, I'll
Drain the pipes. Run for the hills. It's cold up there.
Well, let me say this about that.
Fine.
If you're in Huntsville,
Yes.
even. If you're in Huntsville.
Huntsville
and north,
they're going to get colder.
You're going to get colder.
I drained the pipes there.
That's right. And there,
Yeah.
if you're north, if you're north of the Conroe Woodlands area, you may want to think about draining your pipes.
Keep your eye on it.
Yeah, just keep an eye on the temperatures. But remember,
and if you're in Wyoming or New York or something like that, it's going to be cold. I don't know if they drain their pipes.
Yeah, and if you're in one of those colder places and you're thinking you'd rather live in a more reasonable temperature climate like Houston, I'm sorry, we're all full. Okay.
Yeah, go to Florida.
First question we got.
Very nice. I lived there a long time.
From
yes.
Andalusia, Alabama. It's George. Actually, his name is George Jones. So we'll go for the grand tour here. He says, I have a porch with a metal roof on just purlins and no sheathing that I'm turning into an enclosed utility room. My question is, can I spray foam, closed cell foam insulation directly on the underside of the metal? I know they do this with a lot of barn conversions. What say you, Tom?
Actually, in that case, you could, if it's just a small room like that and you're not going to have an attic space that you're trying to ventilate or anything. And the reason I say that is because in this case, you don't have a wood decking, you don't have all this structure there. All you have is those purlins, and if they're staying dry, and you already know that, getting that foam up against the metal keeps the metal from sweating, and it guarantees that they will stay drier even longer. And then if you're just putting a ceiling on the bottom of the rafters, I don't see a problem with it at all. Very rarely will I say that will work, but that will. My biggest question is, how much is it going to cost you to do that area? And if you just got some unfaced fiberglass and push it up against there and then put your ceiling in on the bottom of the rafters, it'd probably be a lot less money, but maybe a little more work. Quite frankly, I don't think it'll be that much more work. And I probably would do that just because it's going to be a lot less expensive. You're talking $100, $200 for insulation. I haven't bought it in a while, but it won't be much for a little lean-to.
A little lean-to.
Little lean-to.
Okay.
That's what they call them, lean-to.
Marilyn
Yes.
in Magnolia, Tom, writes, or Mark rather, in
Excuse me, it's Mark. I'm looking at this. Okay, Mark.
Okay, he says, I have
And it's
super hard
Crosby,
water.
not Magnolia.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, he says, I have super hard water.
Wait, that's not what you have on here. Read what you have on there.
Oh, you're right. I got the wrong
Oh,
question.
yes, I know. I'm reading this like,
Look
where?
at this.
What?
My script is out of line with the screen. I'll just read it right off the
Well,
screen.
you figure what you want to do, and I'll do it.
Don't try this at home.
Yes.
Okay. My wife and I are having a custom home built, and what advice can you give us on selecting a builder? We're building on 12.5 acres, and recently we bought in Vaughtowa, Texas. I don't even know where that is. There are 5 builders in Lumberton we'll be considering because they're pretty close. How would you choose, Tom?
When you get into those little towns, you can go see their work all over the place, I'm sure. There's only 5 builders in the whole area. Number one. Number two is people will know in a little town, you ask around, well, they'll tell you if someone's not doing a good job. And quite frankly, they're probably all pretty competent. Don't go with, hey, this guy's going to beat the other guy's price for $10. I also want you to get to meet them, talk to them, and get a gut feeling about who your personality works best with, because personalities in the custom home business, they really need to mesh on a lot of different things, but that's where my experience is. Now, as far as your business goes, you want to make sure that they're in business for at least 5 years. Probably these guys have been there longer. Secondly, I think they should have an office somewhere where they have a telephone, someone answering the telephone, an address that's a mailing address, not a post office box. And I don't hire anybody to build a home that's working out of their garage in their house. I just don't go down that route. I think that's a big mistake. Always ask to make sure that they have their certificate of insurance sent to you from the insurance company, showing the coverage. Depending on the project, you'll have to have different coverage. $1 million liability, $500,000 liability, depending on the cost of the project. And just make sure that they've got a good rep in town. They pay their bills. You're going to have local lumber yards and stuff where they buy their stuff. And you can call the accounts payable, find out where they buy their materials, call a couple of them, see if they've been paying their bills on time. They'll tell you if they don't pay their bills on time real fast. It's amazing what you hear when you ask real nice and just ask a question. Ooh, didn't expect that.
Yeah, we are in the process of, we're on like the the outer limits of starting that process for the land we bought up there in.
Yeah. By the way, Charlie is the boss. He's the millionaire. We all are just little thieves down here while he builds his giant
I
mansion
am. It's true.
In the frozen tundra up there.
I go home and I sleep on a bed made of money. You're exactly right,
You
Tom.
do? Well, that's right.
I
Hides it in the walls like the... no,
I heard Shapiro say that one time. I thought it was the funniest thing he ever said. But anyway, no, I think that I was going to tell you, we're in the kind of on the outskirts of that process. We bought some land up north of the city, and we're fixing to build up there. And we've been looking at builders because in this area, they have some what I would call almost captive builders they recommend. You can bring anybody in you want, but these are guys who are building in this area already. And we went through the different builders that we saw there, and we want something real specific in what we want in our house. And we looked at what they built, and we looked at their approach, and you could see their design style in how they were building. And we immediately were able to rule out 3 or 4 of those builders because they were building very boxy, subdivision-y kind of houses, which is not what we want. But
are you getting the builder to design the house, or are you going to have an architect design it?
Oh, we're a couple of years out.
A builder should not be the house designer unless he has an architectural office with architects. And the architects can design anything you want. Can the builder pull it off is a big question. Some people just like a lot of boxy homes, so these guys will take a set of plans out of their drawer and keep building it all day long, make a few changes. So be careful, because some of the guys might want to do something different and nobody ever asks them.
Good point. Well, the thing, I'll share with you later what we have in mind, because I would not even think about going forward without showing you what we're going to do. You've saved me more times over the 25 plus years we've been working together that I wouldn't ever dream of going forward. But the point is, one of the things I also heard you say about picking a builder is you want to make sure it's somebody you have some chemistry with.
Yes. What's a doctor, a CPA? I don't care who it is. You want to feel good about them.
Right.
So I've gotten rid of a lot of medical doctors because, quite frankly, their answers were kind of substandard. They weren't the brightest answers I've heard. So I find others with better answers, not just what I want to hear.
It's time for a new doctor when the doctor says, "Oh, what do you think?"
When you have a doctor say, "Just don't walk." Really? That's your answer? Don't walk anymore? Okay, fine.
If you're struggling with depression and the therapist says, "Cheer up," time for a new therapist.
All right. Take a pill.
Next question. Here's one that came in from Nick just now. I'll try to get through this. A caller a couple months ago asked about a sewer smell in their bathroom, and you asked if it only happened during cold weather, and their smell was all the time. So you didn't say what caused it in cold weather. I have 2 bathrooms with a sewer smell under the sinks, but it only happens, he says, in cold weather. What would cause that, Tom?
Usually, I don't know about under your sink. That's not what the question was about. Their question was their bathroom stunk, and the fact was that their vent was on the low slope of the roof on the south side, which means the winds come from the north. That cold air drops and pushes that methane gas from that vent down into the bathroom area because it just permeates through the house. And when you have your heater on, it's in a negative pressure pulling even more of it in. So that's what's happening is you're on the north side. And also, in this case, in most cases I get this, is they're on a septic tank, and they're the closest run to the septic tank because it tends to back up in cold weather with the smells too. And if it's under your sink, I'm going to assume I would check the P-traps to make sure they're not siphoning, because the P-trap is where a sewer smell an empty P-trap comes from when a sewer smell happens underneath a bathroom or kitchen sink.
He did ask about the sink. It says in the question, I have sewer smells under the sinks.
Right.
But it only happens
So I would
in
check
cold
the
weather.
P-traps first.
Yeah.
Check the P-traps, make sure they're holding water. You can look with a flashlight. You can take one down, pour it out, make sure water's in there. If you don't use those sinks and it's a bathroom that you don't use, you're going to have to run water once a week to fill the P-traps up. So there's different ways to handle this and different issues. But if it's under there and it's not a dead animal or something in the wall, or it could be that the methane gas from the vent from that, and you're close to a septic system, is coming down through the wall and finding its way under there. So that could be, so you can always look at that too. But that usually is with a septic system, with a vent stack on the low end of the roof on the south side of the home in the wintertime.
Well, Nick, I hope that answered it for you. Appreciate you being out there. I'm glad we could be of help to you. Like Nick, if you want to go ahead and send us a question, we appreciate hearing from you. Just put it in the comments section. We got a few more minutes. We can get to some questions. And if you got a bunch, we'll hang around. We don't pay by the minute here. So we're happy to.
No, we don't.
Happy to hang around. Oh, by the way, Nick just sent back. It's the master bath used all the time, but it is on a septic system and closest to it.
Check the vent stack. Make sure that's great. Make sure that the collar around the vent stack on the roof does not have any gaps or anything. That'll let it drop even more. And what you're doing is it's dropping down. And if you ever want to permanently fix this, if it's on the low slope of the roof, you can go in the attic and put it out a high side of the roof and just arm over in the attic and then pop out a little bit farther up on the roof, and it'll avoid that ever happening again. But that's why it's happening. And I've been getting that call for 30 years.
All right, look who I found. I found Marilyn. She says, I have super hard water. Remember that? What do you think of products that don't use salt and won't affect the plants, is what the products claim. I'm looking at one that claims to stop scale buildup on appliances. Isn't that what a softener does, Tom?
Yeah, no, those don't work, but the plants like it. So it's okay with your plants. It doesn't do anything for anything else. What that is it's a magnetic. Some of them are magnets, some of them plug in. And what they do is they put a little electrical charge in the water, supposedly aligning all the calcium in there so it doesn't stick to anything. But what happens is, and they use those, by the way, very successfully on cooling towers and things of that nature where the water is constantly moving, never stops. So it's just going around and around and around and around. And when you do that, then it can have some effectiveness to it, and it can cut your maintenance costs down in big facility, for the facility maintenance on big plants or manufacturing plants. But when it comes to a house, you use a little bit, then you turn it off, the water stays still, goes right back the way it was. So there's no longevity to it, goes in the water heater, sits there forever, and it just puts all that junk in the water heater. So it doesn't get rid of it. All it does is realign it for a moment or two, and then it goes back to the way it was. So they don't work. Super hard water, they would never work. You wouldn't notice any difference. And a water softener is the only way because it actually removes it as it's going through. So you have to remove the hardness. It's replaced with a little bit of salt, but you remove it so it's not in the water.
I wish I had a nickel for every time one of those products has come along in the years we've been working together. You know,
the magnet products have come around, and people don't remember 1972 or 73, the gas crunch. Right. The first one we had with OPEC got all powerful. They used to try to put them on cars to extend the gas mileage on them. That was a real kicker. It didn't work, by the way. But they'll find a way to sell that stuff all the time. It's nothing new.
Yeah. And they had the citrus ones that have been in and gone. And
came and gone. I remember you called me one afternoon or texted me and said, hey, what do you think of this? And I watched it and I said, no, it's not going to work. Nope.
Move on. Okay. All right. And we're going to, hey, before we wrap up, we're here if you're new to the program, we're here every week. And wait a second, here's JB John. He just wrote in. He's a regular. But we're here every Thursday, most Thursdays, at 4 o'clock Central Time, answering your questions, helping you out. It's just part of what Tom and I do on Early Edition on Sunday morning, but we do it with pictures here on Facebook on Thursdays. Here's JB John. He says, with us potentially using generators, it's safe to run our electronics if I'm connecting directly via a 50 amp outlet. Do I need some fancy surge protector for my TV? That's actually a really good question.
Yeah, and you might have something because you run a radio studio that has more equipment than I've ever seen. But my answer is simple. It should be on every piece of equipment in your home. You should have surge protectors. I'm sitting here in my little homemade studio in Brownsville. I got battery backup surge protectors on everything. You can't, I don't care if it's just regular power. I don't care if what you're trying, where your power comes from. But I think it's a good idea to individually protect at the appliance. And Charlie, you can, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's the way my attitude's always been and what I know about it.
The problem with the generator is that, when it spikes bad, especially the temporary ones, and that will chew up your equipment. The other problem is sometimes you may have just a little too little electric, kind of almost a brownout situation coming off of one of those, and those will eat electronics alive. To give you an idea how far back this goes, Tom, I used to have a computer monitor I loved. It was a Sony Trinitron monitor. Loved that thing.
Well, I remember the Trinitrons.
Yeah, I mean, this is going back. I mean, this made of glass. It had picture to a CRT. And it slowly degraded and one day wouldn't work anymore. And when I had it diagnosed, they said, this thing hasn't been getting enough juice. It died. You killed it. And so that's why we're real careful to have, we filter the electric here. We keep it all a very level. It's all filtered. I guess I'm having word problems here today, but I'm trying
and I don't
to say.
think people need to go to that extreme.
No, you don't have to.
But I would
you're
definitely
right,
put a surge protector on your
even
TV.
basic surge protector will be good. And even when I talk to Will at Right Touch, he talks about the idea of having layered protection. Like if you have it at your you have it at your panel, you should also have it at your devices, so that it helps protect you.
Something can happen in between the panel and the device, so. I'm a stickler for having it on every device. Even at the college I work at, all our computers, we put, and they're simple devices, but they will stop a huge problem.
No.
Sometimes if it's big enough, like lightning, forget it.
Nothing protects you from lightning. No.
Yeah.
Lightning's coming through, and that's all there is to it. By the way, he says he has an APC backup on his computer and his network, and a monster surge suppressor on the TV and the cable box. And I'm going to make a point about that, Tom. If there's a place where you're going to get a surge in your TV that's going to take your TV out, it's going to be on the cable. Because something's going to hit that wire, and you're protecting your power. You're not thinking about that cable that's coming in.
Good point.
So you want to make sure you absolutely run your cable through a surge suppressor. So
I have something to do. I did not know that. Even on DirecTV?
My work is done here. Jesus,
also?
I'm ready.
Charlie, should I do it on my DirecTV? I'm not wired into.
You should do it on any. Well, that's coming off a satellite, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So worst case you're going to get is you may get struck by a lightning or whatever.
Well, the heck with that. If it gets that out.
Yeah. What did we just say?
I'm calling USAA. I'm sorry.
Exactly same here. So let's wrap this thing. Let's land the airplane here, as you like to say.
Yep.
And before we do, let's just recap for anybody who wasn't with us right at the beginning, your admonitions about what to do in preparation for the cold weather that's coming through here tonight.
Okay, I don't want you to panic. You can't go out. You can't insulate your pipes. You don't need to drain your pipes tonight. If you'd have heard me almost a year ago to this day, I was telling everybody last time, drain your pipes, drain your pipes. And a lot of people said, we don't need to drain our pipes, and they had a lot of problems. So this is not a drain your pipe night. Your backflow preventer on your sprinkler system, we have a video at HomeShowRadio.com on how to turn the water off to it, open the little screws, and just let the little bit of water drain out. You can insulate it, but if you drain it, the insulation's really not going to do a lot of good because it doesn't have any water in it. And just let it, not be, you're not going to use it while it's freezing anyway, so just turn it off. That's all you got to do.
Now,
if you have a swimming pool, here's something else. I've got a freeze protector. Mine runs when it's cold. It has a little temperature gauge. But if you don't, turn your swimming pool on all night too, so it just constantly runs and it'll be fine.
Yeah, another great way to have a reason.
I got to throw that in there for Charlie.
Tom, if you're new, I'm not a fan of pools, but that's just me.
That's okay. I am.
And to be clear, we said this earlier. I want to make sure we say it in case somebody's just joining us. This is for the metropolitan Houston area. If you're north of the city, if you're north of the Woodlands, if you're in the outer areas, even going west, Sealy, Katy area, you probably want to be a little more careful and consider taking a little bit more steps. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, and I want everybody to make sure that they know the area they're in. Houston, they say Houston, and Houston is the size of the Philippines. I mean, well, actually, it's just huge.
Actually, the media market of Houston is as big as Rhode Island.
There you go. So I can't tell North Rhode Island and South Rhodeidians, wherever they are,
that's right.
How the difference is going to be. You got to make your own judgment on that.
What happens in Providence and what happens up by Fall River. It's a big difference.
Exactly. So use your common sense to know your area, but for the most part, it's not like last year. Please don't. People will start having heart attacks and anxiety problems. Just calm down. It'll be fine.
Right. Well, it's kind of like...
I hope you got your chimney fixed by Lord's Chimney, because tonight would be a beautiful night to put a fire in the fireplace.
Amen to that. It's kind of like after Harvey here in Houston. If you lived in Houston during Harvey, when Harvey went through, for about 6 months to a year afterward, every time it would rain, people would freak out.
And that was it. Harvey's back. Harvey's back. No.
It's going to flood. Yeah. So it just be reasonable. And so that's just the voice of reason. And when they talk about the real field temperature, as Tom said, unless you're outside naked, not relevant.
It's just turn your brain off. It's just a waste of time. And for those news weathercasters out there, stop doing that. You look like idiots when you do it. We're not running around outside naked. But
to the informed. If you want hype-free weather, just go to Space. What is it? Space City Weather. That's where I go for mine. All right, that's it. You want to tell everybody where they can get a whole heap and helping of you this weekend on the radio?
Oh, I'll be on the air live from Brownsville this weekend on Saturday from 9 to 12 and Sunday 8 to 11 on Sports Radio 610. Hopefully we won't have any aftermath calls, maybe a couple. I doubt it. And we'll have a nice smooth sailing weekend on home improvements. Just stay the course and full speed ahead.
And I'll join Tom Sunday morning. We'll do early edition, answer more of your questions. And we appreciate you joining us. We're here every Thursday at 4:00 Central. I mean, I love we have a lot of people tuned in this week, and I feel like a pastor on Easter Sunday. Hey, we're here every week. Anyway, we'll
3 times a week.
That's right. We thank you much, and listen for Tom this weekend. He'll have more help for you around the house, and we'll see you next week here on AskTom Live.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show